never said that while I asked that question. Thank you all so much for coming. Naomi, did you figure it out?
I do.
Okay. Well, I can project. Cassandra Clare. I wonder if that's going to happen every time I say her name. Cassandra Clare is the author of the #1 New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and Publishers Weekly best-selling Shadowhunter Chronicles. Who here has read? The Shadowhunter Chronicles have been adapted as both major motion pictures and a television series. Have any of you guys seen them?
Yes!
Her books have more than 50 million copies in print worldwide and have been translated to more than 35 languages. That is insane. Cassandra lives in Western Massachusetts with her husband and 3 fearsome cats. Visit her at CassandraClare.com and learn more about the world of Shadowhunters at Shadowhunters.com. Cassandra Clare.
Thank you guys so much for coming out. Can you hear me?
Yes! Wait.
Is it working? Did I fail to turn it on? I failed to turn it on. Okay. Better? No.
No.
Come back and give me your microphone.
I can hear you just fine down here, though. We can hear you.
I mean, I can yell.
Oh my God!
Woo! Okay. So thank you guys so much for coming out. I'm always excited to be here. LA is my hometown where I grew up.
Oh yeah.
So it's fun to come back and to come back to the Grove where I've been before. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this appearance. The last time that I was on tour was 2020, March 2020. Yeah, it was retrospectively a bad time for a tour. So I was about 3/4 of the way through tour when I got the message, we're canceling the tour, you have to go home. And I thought, as we all did, okay, I'll be on tour again next year. 6 months maybe, a year from now, surely not 3 years from now. So this is the first time I've been back out on tour since then. And I'm very happy to say that my being on tour has not caused, so far, any major world disasters. So I knew when I went on tour this time that I wanted to do something a little bit different because it's been all of this time and I've missed coming out and meeting people and talking about the books. And so, and I also knew that I wanted us to be as safe as possible, so that I was going to do pre-signing of the books, which meant not being able to talk to you guys when you came up. So usually what we would do is I would be up here, we'd have a moderator. I think last time I was here was with Lee Bardugo. We had a great time.
Yeah, I remember that.
And, but I thought, this time I'm going to do something different. I want to talk to you guys. And so what we are going to do is just do Q&A. We're going to just have questions and answers. You can ask anything you want, as long as it's not, really super raunchy or a big spoiler. You can ask about writing, you can ask about the books, you can ask about the characters, you can ask for advice about your love life. No one has taken me up on this, but I'm still hoping somebody will. And we're gonna dialogue, we're gonna talk, and we have people moving around with microphones, so you're just gonna stick your hands up and people will, I'm not gonna be picking, because I can't see all of you, I'm not gonna be picking, they're gonna come to you with the microphone. So to get it started, I have this super cute hat. I feel like I'm on QVC, which is embroidered with the Merry Thieves, which is adorable. And we only made a few of these for the for this event, and so for the events that I did for this tour. So the first person who asks a question gets this hat. So start raising your hands. Go. Pick someone who looks like they really want the hat.
I see somebody freaking out back here. You want me to stand? I'll stand. What is your best advice for picking up a guy that you since you haven't dated in years?
Wait, for picking up a guy that you haven't seen in years?
Yes.
Oh man, you finally asked me a question about your love life. I'm so happy. This is exciting. Okay, wait, but I have a question. So is this somebody that you know and you're going to see them again after you haven't seen them in years, or is this somebody that you kind of stared at for a long time and now you're going to see them again after some years?
No, I know them.
You know, I mean, I feel like we know they're single.
Yes.
We do. Okay. I feel like, you know, you're in a good position. You know this person before, you're seeing them again. They're single, you're single. There has been this pandemic, and I'm going to tell you a story about my mom. I know. It's relevant. My mother was married for a very long time to my stepfather, who was a wonderful guy. He passed away a couple of years ago. Then mother then immediately moved to be near me so that she could annoy me as much and as frequently as possible. And she was at her retirement community doing stuff. My mother is always busy. And she runs into this guy who she knew in college, who is now 80. And she likes the look of him. She liked him back then. Then she got married, had a kid, got divorced, met another guy, was married for another couple of years. You know, this has been a long time that they have not seen each other, but she recognized him immediately. As she went up to him and she asked him a couple of questions. I mean, you know, ascertained he was single, everything was good, and she was like, you know what? I had a crush on you back in the day. I think you kind of felt the same way about me. Let's go out. And now he has moved in with her. So I'm going to say the pandemic has given us all a sense of our own mortality, and you know, I wouldn't normally say this, but I'd say take the direct approach. And let us all know how it turns out. All time. All right. And can we give her the hat? I would throw it at you, but I think there's like legal things if I injure you with this hat. So, all right. Whoever's next.
Okay, I'm so happy I got chosen. Hi, nice to meet you, Cassie. All right, so, sorry. My question is, I'm gonna be as vague as possible. So I actually read this book already.
All right.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to know what happens before I come here. So I'm not gonna spoil anything, okay? I'm gonna be as vague as possible. So it's like a two-part question. One of them is just, I know we get kind of an explanation as to why maybe the family tree might not be accurate. Are you ever planning to release another family tree that is accurate?
I think I have, my feeling is that I will release another family tree when I am sure that I am never going to write another Shadowhunters book. Learned my lesson, not doing it again.
Yeah.
So, you know, that will happen, but that is what it will mean.
Yeah. The other question I had was, so for the characters, I mean, there's questions as to who people end up with. You write short stories of some of these people, you know, like the Shadow, like Market and all that stuff. And for Magnus Bane, eventually we hear some of these short stories of the past. So I wanted to know, are you ever thinking about maybe giving us a little glimpse as to who ends up with who that we didn't get that answered in?
Yes. I know exactly what you mean, and it's kind of funny because I feel like we're speaking in code. There are actually more than one character at the end of this, you know, does not have a definitive or settled love life. And so for those who don't, for at least one of them, I was planning on doing, I'm still stuck between either like a set of like 4 novellas or like a set of 10 short stories, so it's going to be one of those things.
I'm just really happy. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I think they're basically the same because usually with the short stories we would do 10 short stories, 10,000 words each, that's 100,000 words, or I would do 4 novellas that were 25,000 words each, and that's 100,000 words. So it's the same amount of words, it sort of just depends on the structure. All right, novellas, we have a vote for novellas. Wicked Powers, have you started?
I don't believe in fairy
break. I want Thai. Where's my Thai book? I know, but I would like I feel like this, I'm enjoying James.
We need a tie.
He's great, but it would be fun to have a tie, don't you think?
Yeah.
So, I think, I did talk about this online. I not expect all of you to follow all of my, Instagrams and whatnot, but
We do. Just saying.
I do love that about you. So, I talked a little bit about taking a break. And I was talking earlier to an interviewer about this. And basically what I was saying was, I have, been writing professionally for 17 years. During that time, I have written 26 books, something like that. I've never really taken a break. I've always been working. And over the pandemic, and I think it was just because it was such a stressful time and because we were all, we were all worried, we were all sad, we were all grieving, we were all trying to figure out ways that we could cope. And for me, writing has always been a refuge. It's where I go when I'm sad or lonely or something terrible has happened, and I process my emotions through that. And this was something that I was having a really hard time processing through writing. And so it wasn't that I didn't enjoy writing anymore, that I felt like I couldn't do it, but I felt differently about it. I felt this there were definitely times when I sort of woke up in the morning and thought, actually we've all I'm sure we've all experienced this in some way or another, and I thought, I just want to lie here, I want to think about the characters, but I can't motivate myself to get up and write. And that was very scary for me. I've never had that before. I've been stuck on a piece of story or, been, flummoxed by the answer to a question or a decision in the story, but then I would always gather my friends together and we would talk about, our work, the structure of the story, various, fixes. And I've always depended, I think, too, on my friends, and they weren't there because we were social distancing. I could get them on Zoom, but it was not the same thing. And so I thought, I'm gonna finish my work. I've never, not finished a project, and I was sometimes able to lose myself, in the story. And I do feel like I put a lot of what I was feeling at the time into both The Last Hours and also Swordcatcher, which I was working on as well. But I thought, I am going to need to take a break because I feel like this is the beginning of what burnout is, and I do not want to get burned out because there are many people I've known who did burn out from either working too hard or working, in times that they shouldn't have been working. I've known people who, because of the deadlines they had a baby and then just wrote a novel while also taking care of a newborn child and then never wrote anything again, and I could never really blame them because that was I don't think they slept for 6 months, And I think in some countries that's legally torture. So basically where this comes back to me is I just decided I'm going to take a break for 6 months. I'm just going to read and engage with, words in that way. I'm going to read about writing. I'm going to read whatever fiction I feel like. I'm going to
Read Zodiac Academy.
read what?
Zodiac Academy.
Zodiac Academy. Okay. I have not heard of that. It's
really good.
Okay. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm going to read everything. I'm going to read books that I get recommended, and I'm going to read books I've never heard of, and I'm just going to hopefully have the time to do that because I've really had to parcel out my reading for such a long time. And so that was a lot about me, but this is a very personal question, and this is also kind of one of the things I wanted to do with this kind of event is talk about the stuff that's personal to me and to all of us in having been through the experience that we have all been through. And so my decision was I'm going to take 6 months off, so that is why we don't know that much about the Wicked Powers. I know the name of the titles, I basically know, I know what the beginnings, the ends of, I know what happens, I know the basic, outline of the plot, and I'm sort of leaving it there. A lot of times I'll think about it and I'll grab my notebook and write down things about scenes or dynamics between characters or ideas that, I feel are cool that could go into it. And it kind of actually reminds me of the way I wrote City of Bones because I had a job back then, and so I could not write all of the time, but while I was at work, I had my little notebook, and I would, kind of scribble stuff about City of Bones and what was going to happen in the books, and it's a way of, like, sort of, I think, for me, not letting myself do that writing is a way of bringing back all that excitement about it. So I'm very excited about writing Wicked Powers, and I'll probably start the end, sort of later on this year after I've given myself those months off. And yeah, all I can tell you is that I totally get missing Kit and Ty. I miss them too. I think that's partly why I wrote Secrets of Blackthorn Hall, was just to kind of like touch it, check in with those characters a little bit. And I can tell you there's a lot of Kit and Ty in Wicked Powers. So something to look forward to. We have a question right here. Okay.
Hi, Cassie. Well, I'm out. So, if Magnus could travel back in time and meet 3 people from his past, who would he choose?
Oh my God.
And why is it not Camille?
You will bring her up.
I mean, I don't think he wants to meet Camille again. I think he feels like that relationship ended in maybe not the greatest place. I think he would, I mean, it's interesting because it's Magnus. I think he would remember that at one time he did have feelings for her, but boy, I think she really blew it. So I don't think that he would want to see her again. I mean, if you've read the Bane Chronicles, I think there are people in there that he would want to go back and he would want to see again. I think, it's going to sound really sad, but I think the first person he would want to meet above all other people is his mother. Which he never got a chance to do. So if he could, since we're talking about magic, if he could time travel and he could meet anyone, I think that's the first person that he would want to meet. I think then after that he would want to meet, I think he'd like to see Edda again, if you remember her from the Bane Chronicles. He really loved her, she was great. They had a great relationship. And I think that he would like to go back and he would like to see Raphael one more time.
Oh.
Now we're all bummed.
Thank God for the show.
Hi, Cassie. Thank you so much for everything you've given us so far. Absolutely love this book. Finished it too.
What? You finished it?
Yes.
Hey.
I'm an audiobook reader, so I listen to it. But I wanted to know how much time do you get with the narrators? By the way, Fenty Williams is awesome on this one. Do you get to talk to them? Do you give them your vision? Do you let them have their own interpretation? So how much involvement do you have with the audiobooks?
It really is a little bit dependent on the audiobook reader. If they don't want to talk to me, or then I will leave them be. It's up to them if they want to kind of put their own interpretation on it. I think Finchie did an amazing job. I'm really glad we got to keep her for all 3 books. Often we don't get to keep the narrator because they get a job, or they're off doing a Broadway show or something, and we can't hang on to them. But I think she did a really amazing job. And we did talk a little in the beginning. Basically, the most common thing is for them to send me a list of questions, and I'll answer them. Like, do you think this character is like this? Do you think that they would, respond in this way? What do you think that they, like if this character is like really, 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 upset and, filled with, sadness, are they the kind of person who's gonna, put that in their voice, or are they gonna hold it back? Like really kind of those interesting actor questions that I don't think about when I'm writing, because it's a different kind of art form. So, and then there have been ones who wanted to meet me, and I have come into the, studio and talked to them. Oh my God, I feel really horrible about this. I cannot remember her name. The girl who plays Sansa Stark. Sophie Turner. I was like super beautiful, really tall. So she wanted to talk about the characters. So I went into the studio and we talked about the characters. So she was reading, half of City of Heavenly Fire, and so we went in, we talked, we chatted about okay, I think this character is like this, and I think this character is like that, and I think that's just her process. And so some of them are like, nope, don't want to talk to you at all, want to figure it out myself. Some of them are like, all I want to know is how the hell you pronounce Parabatai. That's everybody. Nobody knows how to pronounce it. And some of them are more just like, I have a couple questions about character reactions, and then there's like Sophie would be like up at the top, be it as like, I really want to know, like, to get into these characters. And I think, it's all valid. It's all just like how you do it. But, I really think Finchie did a great job.
Hi, Cassie. First, I want to say I started reading your books when I was 14, and then to eventually get to a point where you have a Mexican Shadowhunter, and the story was so special. I cried so much. So thank you so much for that.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that. And my question is for POVs. Do you hear a specific character's voice first, or do you kind of look at the story as a whole and you feel like there's a specific perspective that it's missing, and then you kind of see who it is that you feel like the story needs, or how do you what's your process?
So I'm really glad that you like Christina and Jaime and Diego. I love them. They're great. I think in terms of POV, I try to think about who are the characters who are the most affected by the story, who, I look at the scene and I'm like, who in this scene is the person who is the most, has the most at stake in this scene, who is the most affected by this scene. I'll usually give the POV to them. There are some characters who don't get a POV at all. That's usually intentional because, I'm sure you have all noticed, Matthew doesn't have a POV. And the reason I didn't give him a POV is because I didn't want to spill the secrets he had. And I didn't feel like there was a way to write from his point of view without him ever thinking about those things. It's usually, for me, who is the most affected by the scene, who has the most at stake in the scene. I'll generally give the POV of that scene to them. I think that's it.
Hi, Cassie. I'm back here in the back. I'm really short. Sorry about that. I actually have a question about Alec.
Sure.
Obviously he was elected consul in the last book, and he has a husband now who is very all over the place, and he has 2 young children at home. And does he ever really feel super overwhelmed with his duties as consul and the Downwalder Shadowhunter Alliance and his kids and babysitting his husband? Does he ever feel overwhelmed?
I don't think Magnus requires babysitting. Maybe every once in a while he has to be talked down from a bad idea. But he also has a lot of good ideas, and he's very supportive of Alec, which is important. I am sure, 100%, that Alec is overwhelmed. We only see him really briefly in Secrets of Blackthorn Hall, if you guys have read that. It is sort of an epistolary online novel that bridges the last hours and the wicked powers, and we do briefly see Alec, and I was kind of hinting at Alec is super overwhelmed. Really, the big thing that is overwhelming him right now is that the Shadowhunter world is kind of cracked in half. There's this huge amount of people who have locked themselves away in Idris, and what are they doing? We have no idea. And he's very, very worried about that. So I think kind of one of the things I was trying to touch on in Secrets of Blackthorn Hall when we saw him, and I think just something that's generally true, is that that's a lot of his focus. So I think, is Alec having trouble with work-life balance? Definitely. He has a lot going on, and I think that he and that sort of core group in the New York Institute, we haven't seen them that much, but I think they are very worried about what's happening in Idris, and they are very I don't think they're sleeping on it. They're they're all over there, they're gonna be fine. They are very worried about what's going on there, and I think we're gonna find out in the Wicked Powers that they are very right to be worried. So.
Hi, Cassie. I'm back here. Thank you so much for Chain of Thorns, by the way. I finished it also a few days ago. And also thank you for Ari, because as an Indian lesbian woman, I feel so represented. So thank you so much for that. My question is more about how you write. You come up with such great banter between the characters, and the humor is excellent. So how do you get those lines in your how do you get those lines to come through your brain, basically?
I wish I knew. That is a really tough one. Dialogue is timing and word choice. And that is what makes the difference really between good dialogue and bad dialogue. But it's also, there's sort of an ineffable quality to it. And I hate saying that because I feel like, you know, with writing there should be, you know, rules and, you know, ways to do things that you can always produce a certain result. But I have found that that is not the case. There are things that other writers can do that I do not know how they do it. You know, I cannot, you know, figure it out. And then there are things, you know, like, you know, great dialogue that some people are better at and other people are better at other things. So I would say if you're looking at dialogue, one of the things I do is spend a lot of time listening to people. My husband will back me up. I am an eavesdropper. If you are in a restaurant near me, you are not safe. I've heard a lot of stuff go down. I think my favorite was remember we went out to dinner for Valentine's Day, and I was eavesdropping on the couple next to us, and like right in the middle of, you know, them having a romantic, you know, sushi meal, he gets a phone call, she looks at his phone, she's like, "You're cheating on me?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, you know, just, you know, we didn't say we were exclusive." Massive fight breaks out. I'm totally riveted. Josh is trying to drag me away. He's like, "Baby, you know you're my world." And I was like, "Don't listen to him." He is not sincere. So I do a lot of listening to people. I do a lot of reading dialogue that I think is really great. There are certain writers I think of who write fantastic dialogue, and I'll sort of read that dialogue. Listen to, if you're interested in like banter, listen to comedians, listen to the timing and the beats of the way that they talk, and the way that they make their jokes, and how precisely they pick the exact words they're going to use to make that joke, because if you switch out one word in a joke, that whole joke can come apart. So I do think that there are things that you can do to, you know, to up your banter stuff, but it is also, you know, one of the parts of writing that I find the most hard to teach. Okay. Up front? Oh, no, you. Okay.
Hi,
Then we can go
Cassie.
front.
I met you 10 years ago when I was 13 years old, and you're still beautiful as ever.
Oh, thank you. You're my favorite.
And you are right, it's well deserved that you need to go on a break. That being said, what is the most fun adventure that you've had because of writing?
Oh, that's a really
good one.
Question. Oh man. Anything? My mind is totally blanking.
I mean, lots of research in the UK, going to York, going to.
I mean, yes. I've gone to places that I would never otherwise have gone in the, you know, in the world because of doing research, and it's been really fascinating. I think. I don't know if this counts as an adventure, but I remember once I was trying to figure out where the Dark Sisters and the Infernal Devices had their house, and kind of describe it for Will and Jem returning to that house and finding, you know, the Clockwork Girl there. And so I was in London and with my friend Sarah, and we were sort of going into different courtyards and kind of making, you know, I was trying to figure out the windows. So I was making notes on windows. I had my camera with me, so I was standing there taking pictures of this window before I realized that the window shades were pulled back, and that I could actually see into the house, and that there was a naked man in there cooking eggs. So he saw me, and I saw him, and I had the camera, and I felt like I had no explanation for what I was doing, so I ran away very fast. So I will say that I'm gonna say that was an adventure. But I've also met all sorts of like really awesome, cool people. I remember once I was, again, Infernal Devices, I was trying to figure out what the roof of the Institute was made of. And it is St. Bride's Church, the Institute, which is a real church. I've just, you know, sort of repurposed it in the books. And so I did all of this reading, and I contacted all of these people, and I could not find out at all how, like, what the heck the roof was made of, and I felt like I really needed to know, and that I wanted it to be accurate. And so what I ended up doing was going with my friend, whose name is Clary, who lives in London, to the church itself and getting a sort of guided tour, which are not offered, this is not a thing that you can normally get, of this church by the vicar who was in charge of, the church, and who explained that currently the church roof is made out of cement, I think, but that is because during World War II a bomb blew off the roof of the church, and that previous to that it was slate. And I was like, this is so exciting. Like, I never normally would be in this position talking to this guy, learning this stuff if I wasn't writing this book. So that is one funny story and one serious story. I hope it helps.
Shut up real quick.
Thank you. Hi, Cassie. So, for starters, I want you to know that my question about the wicked powers was supposed to be my question.
Yeah. You can ask a question about the wicked powers. You can ask any question about the wicked powers.
Nah, no need.
I ruined it
I have
for you.
another question top of my head. If you would pick any actress to play Tessa Gray,
nothing is the same. There's a new world.
who would it be? Yes, Will too.
Taking is too easy, but that's the way it is.
Anna will. Honestly, I know it's not the world's most satisfying question, but when I think of like who I would want, and I've been thinking about this a lot, to play Will and Tessa and Jem, I keep coming back to thinking that I would want them to be unknown actors. Because I want us all to, be able to like watch those performances and really feel like that's my Tessa, that's my Will, that's my Jem, without thinking about the performances that they have been in before, or thinking about them as characters that we've seen them play previously. So that, if that was something that were to happen, that would be what I would want. All right.
Thank God. Or in this case, thank Brazil.
Hi, Cassie. I've been wanting to meet you since I was 13, so this is like a dream come true. I'm like walking on clouds and shaking. So I have not read the book yet. I'm ready to be wrecked.
I think most people haven't. It's very long. Don't worry.
And I think we can all agree that there are so many emotionally crazy moments in all of your books that just take us for such a ride. And so 2 questions. The first part is, when you create an outline of your book, do you know all of those harrowing moments like right away? And then my second question is, while you're writing them, are you crying with them? Or are you laughing because you know that we're all gonna cry?
Those are very good questions. So yes, usually almost 100% of the time I know that those things are going to happen because they are linchpin moments in the story. Big dramatic sort of moments, people fighting, people dying. All of that are big pieces of story that move the actions that are going to happen afterwards. So those are generally always in an outline, because a big piece of plot like that, if you don't, include it in what you know about the story, is going to throw your story off. And then, oh wait, what was the other one? Do I laugh cruelly and like Maleficent, or do I cry? No, I cry. I mean, I get really sad because I think that in order to write extremely sad scenes, like I'm thinking at the end of Lord of Shadows, that was really hard for me. Yeah, it sucked for all of us. You have to reach it to write it. You have to reach inside yourself and go, what is the saddest I have ever been? What is the most grief I've ever felt? What is the most devastated I have ever been, felt? What is the greatest loss I have experienced? And let all of those emotions kind of run into you, and you feel them when you're writing, because you have to draw on that stuff in order to get onto the page what the character is, who is observing the scene, is feeling, and how they feel, and what the shock of grief feels like. So not only the end of Order of Shadows, but also the beginning of Queen of Air and Darkness was very hard stuff. So I would say that normally I am also crying, but a lot of the times what I'm doing is the cruel thing of writing it over and over and over and over again, trying to make it sadder, trying to make it like harder, more brutal, more realistic, and then giving it to my friend and being like, is it sad? And they're like, oh my god, I have to read it again, it's so depressing. Okay, here we go. I remember making Holly Black read the end of Clockwork Princess like 14 times until she was like, I cannot cry anymore, I am done. It is good, leave it alone. So, yeah, thank God for one's friends.
Hi, so I've been reading your book since I was in like middle school. I'm in college now. I've really enjoyed how diverse your characters are. So I have two questions. They're unrelated. So the first one, do you ever get inspired by strangers to create characters off of those people? And then the second one is, what happened to why is Magnus banned from Korea? We never get that.
I think we are not going to know why Magnus is banned from Peru until at the end of the Shadowhunters completely. I know I can't do it. I can't. We can't find out. Do I ever get inspired by strangers? That's really interesting. I mean, I think yes, in small ways. Like I'll observe things about strangers that, you know, are interesting to me. Some way they act, some way they talk, some reaction they're having, something I'm eavesdropping on. I actually do think that sushi breakup that I overheard made it into one of the Magnus stories. There's like I think he's out with Alec, and it's one of his old boyfriends comes in and yells at him. But that I think is what I was thinking about when I wrote that. So I definitely think absolutely. I mean, you as a writer, you're a magpie. You take things from everything, right? You know, books, history, strangers, your friends, people you like, people you hate. You know, random bits of terrible movies that are on at 1 a.m. Like there's, you know, you never know what is going to be a piece of something that is going to inspire you or become something else. Or a lot of these things I think of as just sort of like they think of something that flicks on a light switch and you're like, wait, I see something that I didn't see before. And I think, you know, most writers, we are fairly shy. Eventually, if you tour enough, you get over it. But we are big observers of other people. So we're usually quiet, often shy people who spend a lot of time listening to and looking at and thinking about other people and the way that they behave. So yeah, be careful of the quiet people.
Hello. I love your books, and I think you're a queen.
Thank you.
Yes, she is a queen.
I think I have the original first edition of City of Bones.
Woo!
Ooh, nice.
So, of course, now that I'm standing, my completely blank. Oh, so I know it's like picking favorite children, and I'm gonna ask this in a twofold way.
Okay.
So you can give multiple options. we like to differentiate in structure here, in education. But do you have a favorite character that you've ever written from? Like that perspective or that person? And I mean, I have a solid feeling it might be Magnus Bane, but you know, out of that blue. But is there also because each set has like a group. Is there a favorite group that you have instead if you cannot answer said first question, or if you would like to answer both? I'm sure nobody would be mad about that.
I mean, I think the clue that Magnus is in every single book is the only character who's in every book, every collection of short stories. There's no book that doesn't have Magnus in it. It's definitely a big clue that I enjoy writing Magnus. So I would say Magnus is the most fun for me to write. I'm always excited when I know he's going to be in a scene. He livens things up. But I think that you're right. It is like picking favorite children. I don't think I can pick a favorite because I love them in different ways, and I also need them at different times. You know, there are different characters that I like to write depending on my mood. If I'm feeling grumpy and I hate everything, I enjoy writing Alistair. If I'm feeling like, all of my emotions are really big, I enjoy writing Lucy, because for her, everything is, either the best thing in the whole world or the worst thing that has ever happened. So it really depends on my mood, but I would say that Maggie's the most fun to write, and the characters that are most like me personally, that are therefore really easy for me to write, are Tessa, because of the way that she loves books, and I created her, to kind of reflect that love of books that's so important to me. And also Lucy, because she is a writer, and basically she is the writer that I was when I was that age. I wrote almost exclusively. I wrote a book called The Beautiful Cassandra, so The Beautiful Cordelia is just pretty much The Beautiful Cassandra. It's actually a little better. And then Simon, because Simon is a lot like me. He's Jewish, which, we have in common. And then also I feel like he's an ordinary person. He's just a human being. Like, I never thought of myself as a Shadowhunter, and I'm just like me. The moment he enters the world of the Shadowhunters and the Downworlders with all of its dangers, he is immediately killed. And that would be what happened to me. I'm 100% sure that would also happen to me.
Hi, you were the one that got me back into reading. I have a question. Questions are always hard, but what was your favorite part of when you were creating the Shadowhunters? Like, what was your favorite chapter or event that you created?
I don't know. I think it would be really hard for me to pick a favorite chapter, because, it's not something I'm done with. And I think you can only choose that when you're finished, and you can look back on everything that you've done and kind of say, okay, now that I'm finished, what's my favorite part? But if you're sort of still ongoing with it, then your favorite part is always what you're working on at that moment. So even though it's just notes and things in my head, at the moment, my favorite thing is Wicked Powers. I'm like, this is a great story. It's got lots of cool stuff in it, because, it's that excitement about the writing and the creating that keeps you going and keeps you writing that novel. So at the moment, Wicked Powers is my favorite. Who can say what will happen in the future?
Ooh, nice. Front row.
Hi, Cassandra.
Hi.
I was going to say, like many of us, I really, really love your writing, and I want to tell you, I have a kid. So my kid, when he was younger, now he's 20. I remember him being so excited for me to read these books, and he wanted to read them. And then I was like, you have to wait till you're a little bit older. And then, well, I was going to say, now that he likes it. So my question for you is, two questions actually. Okay. One is, would you ever in the future write middle grade books? And the second question is, who designs these beautiful covers?
Okay, actually the second question is really easy. This is actually, most of the covers, these covers are designed, all of them have been designed by Cliff Nielsen. He's the same artist that has designed my covers since the very first City of Bones.
Wow.
These are photographs, actually, and so he'll take a photograph of the character, and then he'll send me a contact sheet that has like 100 different poses, and so I'll pick the pose or the one that I like the most, and then he paints over the photograph. So it's a mixture of photography and painting, and I think that's one of the things that makes it so beautiful. So he's great. That is not his art. Actually, that's Charlie Bauwater, who is also a great artist, and I think paints characters really beautifully. So that's an easy question to answer. And then middle grade. I actually wrote a whole middle grade series with Holly Black called Magisterium, and I really loved it. I really enjoyed writing middle grade. It was really fun. I love writing about that time period in someone's life. And I think the only thing that is holding me back from doing another middle grade is just time. I'm committed to writing, the 3 books of Wicked Powers. There's 3 to 4 books of Swordcatcher, and I would love to work on another middle grade, especially with Holly. I think it would be super fun. So it's one of those things that I'm kind of always thinking about in the back of my mind. So I hope so. I really do, because I really enjoyed doing it.
How could you not know she did those?
Hi, I adore you so much. Oh my god. My boyfriend had to super glue my infernal devices for the 3rd time this morning because it's just so well loved.
I like it when a book is falling apart. It shows that you have, and it's been either well loved or chewed on by a dog.
Literally both. So my question is, was it difficult at times for you to write your series not in chronological order since there's so many of them? Did you ever feel trapped by the initial decisions you made in the Mortal Instruments? I.e. family tree.
I definitely, when people are like, what's your greatest regret of anything you've written, I'm like, it's that family tree in the back of Clockwork Princess. That was a bad idea. I wish I could go back and kick my own ass. But, it is what it is. Not so much in terms of going in chronological order, not in chronological order, because I actually really enjoyed that. I was the one who suggested to my publisher that we alternate Mortal Instruments, Infernal Dices, Mortal Instruments, Infernal Dices, and that was really for me because I felt like it kept me always engaged by the time, because you're wrestling with this book. Novels are hard. They are a lot of work. They are like rolling a big rock up to the top of a hill. And when you are done, you feel more exhausted. And so then I would be able to step on into something that was different. And that was actually really helpful for me. So I did enjoy doing that. I think the main thing that has made me feel trapped was the family tree. But I will say, City of Bones is, and this is something I have said to everyone who has ever adapted my series and they never listen to me. I'm like, City of Bones is not like any of the other books. It is really, really different. Tonally, the way that the magic works, all of this, the real way that the Shadowhunter world takes off and works and functions is in the 2nd book. And they never believed me. I don't know why. But I'm like, we're never gonna see a lot of this stuff again, and I'll make you a list, things that will never reappear or not be important, And I think that's just, it was a first book. I was feeling my way through the world. I didn't know exactly how it worked yet, and then by City of Ashes, I felt like I had, hit my stride. I knew how the world worked. These people were my friends. I knew them, and the way that they behave in City of Ashes is to me completely congruent with the way that they behave in all of the rest of the books. And while I love City of Bones, I, have often been like, it is actually quite different, and I think that can happen a lot with first books. After it happened to me, it was something that I started to notice in other people's first books of a series. So it's kind of a fun thing to look for.
All right, we have enough time for 2 more, and we have index cards back here, so I have to go with you.
Oh, index cards.
Actually, I was in a car accident, so I can't always remember in the moment. So I wrote down my questions.
All right.
Nice.
Max and Rafi. I love that part of the story. My children are adopted, and so when we got to that part, they were just like, I feel so seen. I love that. So will we get to see more of the Lightwood Bane kids and the Wizard's Powers and the Black Volume of the Dead? And if not, how can I change your mind?
No, we will definitely get to see more of them. I also love them. I love that, Magnus and Alec found their family in the world. I think that for adoption is something that's always been close to me. My first cousins are adopted. My best friend Holly's son is adopted. And so part of what I wanted to do there was to show not only with Magnus and Alec that, a queer family is a happy family, but also that a family with adopted kids is a super happy family, and that these kids have the best parents, and that they are super happy, super loved kids. And so I do love writing them. And I mean, there's always the idea, right, in the back of the mind that maybe someday down the road there could be a book about the kids of, Clary and Jace, Simon and Isabel, and Max and Rafe could be in there. I don't know, I just say it's something I think about. I'll set up a GoFundMe. I mean, it is something I've definitely thought about, And either way, whether that happens or not, we will see them again in Black Volume of the Dead, because of course we will. They're super, you know, they're Magnus and Alec's family, and these are Magnus and Alec books, so we're not going to have a book without them. Okay, we got one more, right?
Yeah, right back here.
Okay.
Sorry, I have two quick ones. One, you know who our favorite author is, obviously. I want to know who your favorite author is.
Ooh.
And then also, I knew the books were pre-signed here, but I want to know the next time you're going to do an in-person signing, because I got my unicorn for Christmas, and
oh, it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful, and so.
Oh wow, that's gorgeous.
OMG.
I mean, that makes total sense to me. Man, I mean, I would love to do an in-person signing. I enjoy doing them. Like I said, one of the reason that you do book tour is to meet people and to talk to them. So this was, the closest thing that I could come to. All I can say is I will very likely be back in Los Angeles in September because I'm going on tour for Swordcatcher. So hopefully things will be different, safer. If you come to that, I will absolutely sign that book for you. And now I forgot the other question because this is my last event and I'm sleep deprived. My favorite author. Oh man, that is again super, super, super difficult. So let me think. I'm going to try to think of someone whose books I can read over and over again, or that I read every year, and that would be a standoff between Tolkien and Jane Austen.
Ooh.
I know, they're very dissimilar. Though I actually would imagine that Tolkien probably did like Jane Austen. I do not think she would have liked his books. And I think that it is because Tolkien was the first time when I was a kid, young teenager, that I read a book and thought, you can make up a world that feels as real as the world that we live in, where everything feels like what it feels like to touch it, to see it. It feels, just completely real to you. And I had never realized that before. I had never thought about it. It was really the first fantasy book I had read in that way and experienced. And then I think with Jane Austen, I read those books over and over again every year and never get bored because I think they are so perfectly and carefully observational about people. And it's fascinating to me how these incredibly small details about people are sort of focused on, and that these books were written hundreds of years ago and they remain as completely true to life. I read them and I think, yes, I know that person. I know someone exactly like that, and I think that is an amazing skill. And I also just want to say that those were books that I read when I was in middle school, and a lot of you have stood up and said, you've been reading my books since middle school. And I think, often people ask me, why do you write young adult fiction? And they say it this kind of way that makes it sound like, why would you write young adult fiction? Like, why wouldn't you write a real book? And so my response is always like, do you go up to pediatricians and ask them when they're going to treat real patients? So the reason that I do write YA, I think, is because books were so important to me when I was that age. And even though, I love reading now, it will always be a huge and important part of my life. I think for me, that was my most important reading time. And those books that I read then and loved sort of lodged themselves in my heart and have made me the person that I am. And so for me, and I got a little choked up, what I wanted was to be able to do that for somebody else. And so if I have done that for any of you, then I am happy. And thank you. You have made me very, very happy, and so we are going to give you some gifts.
So we actually had people write their names down on here. If you want to collect one of those, you guys are going to look at your tickets. There's a number on there too. So what are we giving away first? This is for the blanket.
Okay. So we have this cute, extremely fuzzy blanket that is the cover of Chain of Thorns.
It doesn't come with me, although I'm making it look good.
Okay, I'm not looking. Okay. Maria Rosa. Maria Rosa.
Is that you? Woohoo!
I was going to say, I'm Maria Rosa.
Where's your dress from? It's beautiful.
Thank you. I designed it.
Oh, nice.
Thank you so much. What do you think? The cover? We are giving away the cover. You can put it on your wall. You can do whatever you want with it. And okay. Sorry, this keeps sliding out of my hand. Brianna Kelly.
Brianna! At one point, you covered your head because she was saying, like, when I write, I cry too, and you were like, no. It was amazing.
Okay, now the last thing we are giving away, I hope goes to somebody who has a very large car, as it is James. And the only thing I ask of you is don't come up and get James right away because I want to take a picture with him. I have not gotten to do it yet, and I'm like, last stop of the tour, got to take a picture with James. So, Mariah Bird, I hope you have a very big car.
Who is Mariah? Woo!
If you don't want it because it's enormous, we can pick somebody else. You're good? Okay, you're good. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to take a picture with James. I'm going to head out, but I appreciate you coming out so much, and this was really fun. Thank you.
All right, everybody, do me a favor and stay seated. Risden is actually going to help everybody exit in just a moment. But in the meantime, we're going to take a photo.
Oh, no signing.
You guys are more than welcome to take a photo of Cassandra taking a photo.
This is just the easiest way to do it.
Well, guys, turns out there is no signing for this one. This sucks. But hey, I still had some fun. The point is I'm so glad to see her again, and it has been a while. So guys, yep, looks like she's leaving. Well guys, time for me to end this. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and be sure you all stay safe and stay healthy. Bye.